Hello and welcome to my second video. I have decided to put up a second video to share more experiences with you, as I have a lot of things I can impart which will help with understanding everything that's going on today. So going back to my first story, I awakened in 2012 and then I went back to trying to live a normal life. Little did I know that it will never be normal again. What my soul wanted was for me to continue to meditate and to grow spiritually, and what I wanted was to complete my studies. So every time things were in order and working well on a physical level, something would come up and disrupt my life, and things just got gradually more and more complicated. And by the time 2018 came around and I had several dreams, visions, intuitions, and tried a couple of spiritual groups, I was exhausted. So in 2018, I lost my health. And as I mentioned, I went through a custody battle. I, for many years, had adrenal fatigue that I didn't know. I had IBS. I had depression. And by 2018, everything just piled up and up and up, and I ended up with adrenal burnout, which doctors don't actually say exists, but it's very real. Every organ in my system started to shut down. I pushed myself that hard, blocked everything out and just kept going. I have a lot of inner strength that keeps me going, and all those years I just kept going and kept going and kept going. I went from working twice as hard to 3 times as hard than I've ever done in my life, and I kept it all together, but my body couldn't. So by the time 2018 hit, it started to shut down. It had enough. You can't abuse your body to that point where you just don't listen to it and you don't rest and you don't meet your needs and you just don't stop. You work yourself to death. Yes, people can die of working themselves to death. People can die from stress. People can die from a broken heart. All of those things are possible. So 2018, I had my heart broken again, not as badly this time. And interestingly enough, when my heart was open, I was able to keep going, and my body was able to sustain itself, even with difficulties. But once my heart chakra closed, that was it. So that's when I hit a really, really difficult time in my life. In fact, the hardest time in my life I have ever had. Losing one's health is pretty much losing one's life. I was bedridden for a year, and no one helped me because most people just didn't know how sick I was. I told people I was sick, but most people were like, oh, you'll get better, you'll be fine. I needed help and there was no one to help me. So I had to catch cabs everywhere. I was in and out of hospital constantly. You name it, tests, blood tests, exams, medicines, everything. I was traumatized just from that alone. So for the first 6 months of that year, it was hell for me, absolute hell. But what I do want to share with you, as difficult as that was, I had a second spiritual awakening, and I didn't know that was even possible. But I suppose ignoring the first one and trying to go back to normal initiated the second one, which was turning my life upside down even more. So the second awakening, I basically had a near-death experience, and to this day I never really speak of it because most people can't relate. They don't understand what that means. And I also couldn't figure out for a long time what actually happened. But it was a near-death experience, so I was so weak and I reacted to some medicine because my thyroid went out. So I went hyperthyroid, then hypothyroid, reacting to medicine. My body couldn't cope. And I was weak. I was just lying there and I was like drifting in and out of consciousness. And then I sort of just drifted off. And of course, I was feeling sick and weak and I just didn't want to be there. And I drifted off, and it was an out-of-body experience because there was just all this peace and light. And then the thing is, I did want to die. And then I saw Jesus, and he doesn't live behind the couch, and it wasn't a figment of my imagination. He was like a spirit being, like in the paintings when he had the traditional Orthodox paintings. He looked like that to me. He had the long nose and the long face and the dark hair and the beard. And he came to me and he didn't say much, but the communication was like with telepathy, and I could feel like what he saw. And basically he's a Hanoic empath, and I believe I may be one too. And you reflect back to other people their wounds as a Hanoic empath. So people see in you what needs to be healed in them. So looking at Jesus, I saw within him myself. I saw the pains, the troubles. I don't know, when someone says Jesus is beautiful, it's not a physical beauty. Jesus is the most kindest and loving person I have ever met. Like, I just started crying. Like, I can't even look at Jesus without crying. Like, he is so beautiful with the love and the kindness and empathy. Like, you just get overwhelmed with his beauty. The energy is just so gorgeous. So I started crying, but I saw myself in him, and he was reflecting back to me where I needed to heal and what was wrong. And I saw a lot of disappointments, and I wasn't happy with myself. And basically the biggest thing was I was disappointed with myself. And then I, of course, wanted to go, and I wasn't allowed. I hadn't finished my life's path or journey or whatever. They didn't actually let me die. They sent me back. They said, too bad, go back. So I went back, and of course woke up. Here I am, still lying in bed. Very, very hard to get from that state into health again, but I did it over the course of 3 years. So yes, I had to crawl out of bed, and I had to drink and eat and force feed myself and take other herbs and just wait out the illness. But in my mind, the pain of being sick, I didn't want to be there. So, how do you convince your mind to get through some of the most difficult and challenging situations you can ever come across? And I had to find hope. In all of that, I had to look really deep and go, you know what? If there's 1% chance that I can recover, like knowing that some people do recover, I'll take that chance. It's 1%, but that's how it felt at the time, but I'll take it. So every day I found the hope to go on. I found something that inspired me, and I started on YouTube. I started finding all these, stories of people who recovered their health, and amazing experiences and spiritual stories. And it gave me so much hope, knowing that there's something outside of the physical, and that people do have miracles and they can recover. Some people would say it's just a lot of faith and it's not real, but it's real, but to keep going, you decide whether you live or die, because you have to want to live to live. When you're in those situations where you're very grievously ill, there's nothing, like, you don't want to be there. But if you change your thoughts around and you find a reason to live, and you find hope that you will recover and what you want to do with your life, you know, you create a path. The doors start to gradually open. And I prayed a lot, and I asked for, you know, solutions to my health problems to come up to me, because I had no idea what was really wrong and how to fix my body. So I prayed a lot about, you know, just answers to what would work. And gradually I was guided, and I did my meditations. I started to meditate. I was so down, I was so low, I couldn't even get out of bed. So I got my meditation from years ago, like from 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something, and I would do that every morning, and that would set up my day. So I'd start the morning with, you know, a good probably was an hour of meditating, and that stuck with me for the whole 3 years. So every morning I wake up, I meditate for an hour. But initially it was very hard, and I couldn't concentrate, and I didn't want to do it, and how do I say, I just didn't have the interest. I would rather, you know, be on YouTube watching films, or, you know, reading health stuff to try and get more information on how I can recover, but I didn't really want to meditate. And then my higher self came in, which I didn't know that was at the time, and it embodied me, and yeah, I didn't know that I could attack myself, but there you have it. My higher self actually attacked me into meditating. I can't explain it. It was just like being attacked, but attacked by me internally. So it was awful, and I just went, okay, that's it, I give up. This is very strange, I'm just gonna meditate. So I started doing it. I started making myself do it, an hour every single morning, and yeah, by the end of the year, I recovered a lot. And during that time, I was guided very much to, like, basically everything that I'm teaching now and sharing in my notes about affirmations and releases. I was learned about the power of changing my thoughts around to create my own reality. Now, that sounds like a concept that doesn't actually work, but it does. When people say we create our own realities, it is by our thoughts and our emotions. So when you can change the way you perceive things, change how you think, and therefore change how you feel, you create a different reality for you. Like, the reason I stayed alive was for my daughter. That was a big drive for me. She needed a mother, and I needed to be there. So that was a big reason for me to stay here. And yeah, just that 1% chance of recovery, and one day possibly sharing my story with everybody else and giving people hope. So I pulled myself out of a very, very difficult situation, and 6 months in bed is no joke. Like, yeah. And YouTube was my only friend, basically. Yes, I messaged people. I love texting and messaging, so I was all over that too. But yeah, YouTube kept me company, and I looked at every documentary, every, you know, medical journal I could think of that I could read. I did my research. So I wanted to get well, and I found out everything I could, and I found the solutions. And the problem was, I'm not a doctor, so I didn't know how to implement them in the right way. I found all the answers, but I didn't know the right protocol. And that took me a long time to work out, and going to different specialists. But it's interesting, going back over all my notes, I had all the answers in that first year, in the first 6 months, everything that I needed. And it just took a very long time to implement it, and my body was very slow at healing, and there were different stages and different protocols I needed. But the answers were all there. So going back to those first 6 months and going on to the next 6 months, I did all that meditation. I had a little bit of help, I will be honest. I did see a kinesiologist, I saw a hypnotherapist, you name it. I went to a medium as well. I did what I could to sort of, you know, make myself have hope of recovery, and just to keep going. And by the end of that 6 months, I went back and did all my assignments at uni and finished that off basically. So yeah, everything in first semester I didn't do. In second semester I worked twice as hard and just did everything. I basically was on a lot of herbal medicine and compound chemist medicine just to keep going, and I'm still on a lot of that. I need my herbs. My body has recovered, but not completely. But going back 3 years, I was much, much worse. So I'm very grateful that I've come as far as I have. And when I wanted to speak of spiritual experiences, in that time, I was helped with a lot of the practices and things I was doing to explore different healing modalities, really. So I discovered kinesiology, hypnotherapy, and I loved those. I understood more about the energy body work and affirmations. But I also managed to join meditation groups online, and one of them, we activated like all our chakras. I think it was 12 chakras or something. And after that, like, I had this really amazing, I wouldn't call it out of body experience, but I hit a very high level of consciousness just in one moment. I guess an out of body experience, if you want to call it that. But I went right up and out of my body and I saw the whole world. Not just the city or the town, I saw the whole world. And I could see everyone and everything, and I understood in that moment what was going on. And I had access to all this knowledge and wisdom. And I think I hit the Book of Thoth, because that is in the astral realm. It was destroyed, but the actual book still remains in a energetic frequency vibration that you can still access. So I think that's where I headed, because I was interested in ancient Egypt and into those practices. And I don't know, I just, all of a sudden I had all this wisdom and knowledge, and you know, the Book of Thoth made sense to me. So I came back into my body, and since I had that experience, I was like, no way, life is not physical. I've had enough. Like, we are not a physical being. We are actually a soul, and we are in this body, and we are in this body to learn lessons. When you're on the other side, life happens very slowly for you, and you can't learn the lessons as effectively. And you basically live in your own realities, what's in your mind, in your memories. That is life after death. But when you're in the physical, karma takes longer to come back to you, and you have more time, and it's just so much more denser reality that you can really learn your lessons, and you can really understand life and who you are better, and how better to understand yourself than to be in the physical form and to have those lessons come up again and again and again until you learn them. And once a lesson is learned, it goes away. So really the purpose of life, besides experiencing life, is really working through all those lessons. And it's not about being tested, you're doing it for you. Your higher soul has organized those lessons so that you can overcome them and reach a higher state of consciousness. So I mean, the best way I can explain it, there is life after death, and you come back. Doesn't have to be on this planet, can be another planet, and you keep coming back until you learn. But you get to a point where you can learn all your lessons. You become like Buddha or Jesus or one of these people that I will call an ascended master. They're a being that has had many lives, learned all their lessons, and gotten to a point of consciousness where they can help others on a world level. And that is what they are. They're not, you know, fake teachers or something. They are ascended human beings. They are what we can be. We can be that. I hope this makes sense. Like, we can have enough lives, learn our lessons, and we can become like Jesus, and we can become like Buddha. We can do what they do. We can split ourselves up in many forms or realities. We can walk across water. We can heal with our hands. We have the capacity to develop those abilities. It could take lifetimes, but now, since we're in a stage of awakening on the planet, a big one, hence all the weather and disasters, they want everyone to wake up. They will turn up the heat until everyone wakes up. And that's what people are doing. You're either dying or you're waking up. And if you're waking up, the lessons are coming hard and fast, and you've just got to learn them, overcome them, and your soul's doing it. So you're actually doing that to you. And with the awakening, we have this wonderful opportunity to become like our ascended masters. I'm just using Jesus and Buddha as an example. There are many more. There's like, obviously, Babaji and like, I think Muhammad, and there's a few others. There are all these amazing people who have existed in our history, and we can get to that stage ourselves. And they're here as just sort of, they've walked before us. They've led the way. They've paved the way. The path has been carved by them, and by following their teachings, we can get to that level of understanding and awakening. But the teachings are not external. It's never in your mind, and it's never physical. It's always spiritual, and it's always a matter of the heart. So you don't really have to go to an ashram. You just have to follow the teachings and embody them and understand them. Yeah, so going back, I also had a bit of help in 2018 to heal my body. And they didn't heal me completely. Like, I learned what I needed to heal. I learned how to heal, and I got to a place where I felt well, and I was doing everything I needed to do to recover, but I was fluctuating, and the rest was left up to me. It was like, here are the answers, here are the tools, this is what you need to do, off you go. Now you have to heal the rest of you. I do sometimes wish my recovery only lasted a year, but I relapsed again in 2019, earlier in the year, and had to build myself up again. And then in 2020, I also had a minor relapse mid-year. So, you know, every time my body has recovered, I haven't been able to sustain it. Unfortunately, my adrenal burnout is prolonged by autoimmune. I have lupus, so basically every time lupus is triggered, the autoimmune condition, the adrenals get exhausted, and it's this vicious cycle. So the best way I can explain it is, if I don't get my sleep, then the lupus gets triggered, and once that gets triggered, I get inflammation through my whole body, and my adrenals get taxed, and it starts this cycle where I just feel really ill. And to sleep, my body, because of the damaged nervous system, it switched that off. So my nervous system has not been working. Despite all the help I've had, it just calms down. And I do have a lot of herbs and meditations to keep it calm, but generally speaking, without what I take and what I do, I don't sleep. I don't fall asleep. I can close my eyes, but I will not fall asleep. So it's been really hard. I'm basically, as far as I understand at this point, I'm suffering from sleep deprivation, and I was for a long time. Now I'm able to sleep thanks to ASEA. I have been on that for a year now, going on a year. That's been the biggest help, and of course all the usual herbs you would treat for, you know, anxiety and stress and calming the nervous system. And then I have also had to deal with my thyroid. I had no idea until recently my thyroid was a part of the problem. So I still have to make sure that that's completely healed, but that was stuffing up my hormonal balance. And a big part of all this, which I will share with other people, your health starts in your gut. So all of this, the autoimmune, the hormonal stuff, you know, you name it, the IBS, which had gone away, but then I ended up with candida gut, and you can't imagine what I've gone through, including kidney infection that would not leave. Basically, it all starts in your gut. So when I started treating my gut this year, first with herbs, and now I do my own bone broth, as mentioned before in the video, it started to heal. So a lot of the problems that I had, for me, were in my gut. So if you can understand that your gut is sort of the center of your whole health, you'll know what I'm talking about, like candida gut, depression, anxiety, gut issues, adrenals, hormonal imbalances, just everything's in the gut. So I started fixing my gut health, which I'm still doing with the bone broth and the protocols and diets. I'm very, very strict with what I eat. That started to recover me. So my lupus doesn't get triggered. I'm sleeping at night. Everything's just working out. And another part of that was I needed amino acids, and I found a good product more so recently that has solved the dehydration issue, because I would always be leaking vitamin C. It was calcium. If I didn't get my sleep, my body would excrete huge amounts of calcium and I would start dehydrating. So yeah, I've got amino acids, and that helps me build protein, which helps me rebuild my body, and that's been great. So I've stopped the dehydrating. So, you know, little by little, I've recovered, and I'm going on to alkaline water, which is also an amazing, like, healing properties. It has amazing healing properties. There's different types of alkaline water, but depends on the pH. If you get the right pH, you take it long enough, your body also starts to heal. So I would just say there's more than one way to skin a cat. I've just gone with trying everything once. I try this, it works or it doesn't. End of story. And doing my research and really finding out the underlying causes of what it was that made me unwell, and fixing those. And again, partly kinesiology taught me that, to find the underlying cause and remove it. Yeah, I suppose I'll just leave it here, the video. But I hope that's been helpful, and yeah, I'll post soon again. Thank you.